Hello, welcome back to the circuit. My name's Mark and this is Scalextric Racer. Today's episode is all about pacer cars. Whenever I film my videos, I like to include a race which I call the Pacer Car Pursuit. This is two pacer cars which are able to drive down the circuit on their own, and I race them in a third car which I normally start off the back of the grid. The two pace cars give me really stiff opposition because of their fast lap times, and they also provide lots of traffic on the circuit, so it's difficult to pass. When I set up these races, it often prompts comments about how the pacer cars work. So I thought today I'd do you a video which explains the subject of pacer cars. We'll look at exactly what pacer cars are and what different types there are. I will show you which ones of my slot cars make the best pacer cars, and then we'll actually go ahead and set some up and I'll show you how they work on the track. My Scalextric set is a digital set, so I actually use the C7042 Advanced Power Base, although I don't use the built-in Scalextric software to manage my races. My race management software is called SSDC, which stands for Scalextric Sports Digital Console. So if you've got a similar setup to me, or maybe you're just really interested in pacer cars, then this really is a video for you to watch. So please do stay tuned right through until the end. So before we move on, can I just remind you about subscribing to my channel? You can subscribe now for absolutely free, and if you do so, you'll really be helping me to build up my audience. Plus, I've got some really good ideas for videos coming up in the future, so if you're subscribed, you'll catch those just as soon as they become available. So it's probably best today that we actually start with a story, and this goes back to when I was a much younger person back in the 70s, and I wanted to play with the Scalextric, but my brother, whose set it was, wasn't available to play with me. But I wanted the excitement of a wheel-to-wheel duel with another car. So I had to figure out a way of how I could get a car going down the circuit on its own so I could race against it. The first idea that I had was to try and control two cars with two hands, so a hand controller in the left hand and a hand controller in the right hand, and of course, as you can imagine, that ended up in a literal car crash. But then one idea that did seem to work was to hold the hand controller down just a short way until the car could successfully get all the way around the circuit without coming off, and then I fixed that position in place by wrapping some sellotape around the hand controller. And this did actually work, although I must say that the hand controller got absolutely scalding hot and it smelt of burning, and there was a little plume of smoke coming out of it. But that is actually what is essentially a pacer car. That's what you would call these days a constant throttle pacer car. Using the Scalextric Advanced Power Base, the C7042 which I mentioned I can actually set up a constant throttle pacer car. And I don't have to resort to putting sellotape around the hand controller, so there's no danger of anything bursting into flames. But constant throttle pacer cars do have their limitations, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to purchase some race management software. And as I mentioned earlier on in the introduction, the software I use is called SSDC, and this allows me to set up a different type of pacer car, which is called a variable throttle. So in a moment I'll show you both types of pacer car and how we actually set them up in SSDC. But before we do that, I'm going to show you the slot cars that I choose out of my collection that I always use to be pace cars. These are the two cars that I always choose to be my pacer cars. You've probably heard me talking about them before. The blue one I always call the Monster Mondeo, and the red one there, that's my beastly BMW. And there's a couple of reasons why I always choose these two cars. And the first one is actually they're a bit old and battered. So when we do get into setting up pacer cars, you'll quickly learn that it's not always that perfect, and often we'll find that these cars are involved in collisions. They'll end up on the floor or crashed into a wall. So with these two cars being that little bit older, I don't mind too much if they suffer any damage. Saying that, you'll notice they haven't really got elaborate wing mirrors. They're not fitted with spoilers. They haven't got any sort of body kit on the front. I actually picked the two cars up from eBay and I got quite a good deal on them. They were quite cheap. But there's another really strong reason why I choose these two cars, and that's because I upgraded the magnets on the bottom. And that magnet that you can see there, that's a neodymium magnet. And these magnets are modern ones, obviously, very, very strong, and they stick to the track like, well, they stick like you know what, and that's an advantage for the pacer car. With a pacer car having to navigate corners on its own and you want to get a reasonably high speed, a car that sticks to the track is much more beneficial than one of your lovely shelf queens that's really lively and nimble and comes off all over the place. So what we know then is that pacer cars are cars that can just drive themselves around the circuit, and we also know that by using cars like this, which stick really strongly to the track, we're going to get much better results than if we choose something that's a bit lightweight and fly away. So let's now go ahead and use my software, SSDC, and I'll show you how we set up the different types of pacer car. So what we're going to do now is, using the SSDC software and this Ford Mondeo, I'm going to do you 3 demonstrations. The first demonstration will just show you how fast I can actually drive the Ford Mondeo around the circuit when I'm controlling it. Then I'm going to set the Ford Mondeo up as a constant pace throttle car, and we'll see just how fast a lap time we can get. And then finally I'm going to set it up as a variable throttle pacer car, and I'll just show you each of the examples. So this is the SSDC software, and you will see here that I've already got a race configured. So it's just a Grand Prix race, 20 laps. That's actually not important at the moment, but you can see here that loaded into the race I have Andy Race and the Ford Mondeo. So as I said, the first thing we're going to do is show you just how fast I can get this car to go down the circuit when I'm controlling it and not the software. So we need to put the race into what's called free practice mode. So we click on this swirly icon here, and you'll see the screen change, and the icon there is now the checkered flag. I'll just click off there, that's better. See, it's the checkered flag. I'll go onto the leaderboard so you can see the lap times. Put the car on the track. So I'm using this blue hand controller. I'm going to move the camera slightly. What's difficult is I won't be able to film as I'm racing, but if I put that up slightly, you should be able to see the car as it goes past the start finish line. So let's just do maybe, I don't know, 4 laps, and we'll see how fast I can drive it when I'm controlling it. So here we go. And I have mentioned before that the record for my circuit to get 1 lap is about 5.7 seconds. So I've got 2 6.4s. Let's see if I can do a little bit better. 5.9, that's very close to the record already. 5.7, that's almost a new record. Take that off. So with me driving this car, I could achieve a lap time of 5.7 seconds. But what I'm going to do for the next demonstration is set it up as a constant throttle pace car. The thing about a constant throttle pace car is it will go at the same speed all the way down the circuit. It won't speed up when it gets to straights, and it won't slow down when it gets to corners. And if you think about it, that means that it can only go as fast as the slowest corner on your circuit, because any faster, when it gets to that slow corner, it will just de-slot. So whereas me driving it, I could get 5.7 seconds, using a constant speed, we're not going to achieve a speed anywhere near to that. So we need to give it a target lap time, and I think a target lap time in this case, I think 8 seconds would be suitable. So I've just typed in 8 seconds there. What happens is when the car goes over the start finish line, it will look at its own time, and if it was going slower than 8 seconds, it will actually speed itself up, and if it was going faster than 8 seconds, it will actually slow itself down. That speeding up and slowing down will apply to the entire lap, not just individual sections, so it won't just go a little bit quicker on the straight at the back there. It will speed up for the entire lap until it reaches the 8 second mark. For its first lap though, it doesn't know how fast it needs to go because it's got no information, so we need to tell it on its first lap how fast or slow to go. So I'm going to set this dial here that says start speed. So I'm just going to set it there, and that tells the car for its very first lap go at this speed, but then once you've got some information about how fast you got round, you can start calibrating yourself until you hit the 8 second mark. So I'm going to put the car on the track now, and we need to make it work on its own. So the way we do that is we make the driver, who is Andy Race, a pace driver. So he will now drive the car himself and try and hit the 8 second mark. Of course the car isn't moving at the moment, but we need to put the car into free practice mode, the race, sorry. So the race is now in free practice mode, and then this little man up here, when I click on him it says run pace cars in free practice. So as soon as I click on that, the car will start moving. So I'm going to flip onto the leaderboard because I want us to see the lap times, and then I'm going to click on this icon and the car will start moving. What I'll also do now is pick up the camera and I'll try and track the car as it goes down the circuit. So I'm just going to pick this up now, and are we ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and off we go. So for that first lap, that was really slow, and the lap time it got was 8 seconds dead. So it shouldn't have to calibrate too much really. What will it do when it comes to here? It did 7.9 seconds, so it did actually speed up a little bit. When it comes down this time, 7.9 seconds. So quite quickly it settled into the 8 second mark. There we are. Of course, if I was racing this with another car and I'm capable of getting 5.7 seconds on this circuit, it would actually be quite a boring race, wouldn't it? Because I could beat it really easy, probably by nearly 2.5 seconds per lap. So let me stop this now. Okay, so at constant speed, 8 seconds was really easy for it, wasn't it? So let's go on to the race manager, take the car out of free practice, well, take the race out of free practice mode. Let's ramp it up a bit. Let's see if it can get round in 7 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing again. So we set the target lap time to be 7 seconds. We're going to click the swirly icon there to get into free practice. The driver's already a pace driver, so as soon as I click on the run pace cars in free practice, this car will start to move. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Look at the leaderboard so we can see the times, and then I'll pick up the camera, click on the icon there, and then the car will start to move. And we're going for 7 seconds this time. There we go. So coming out for its first lap, and that was 7.8. So it should know that it needs to speed up, and already it's on 7.5 seconds. So it's coming round, it needs to speed up again, and it got 7.3. So it knows that when it comes round again it will need to speed up once more, and it got 7.2. So it's approaching the 7 second mark. 6.9, so now it knows that this is the speed that it needs to be travelling at. 6.9, so again it's settled into a groove and it's getting constant lap times of plus very near 7 seconds, either 6.9 or 7.1. So again I'm going to stop the car moving. Okay, so it can get a 7-second lap at a constant speed quite easily. So let's go back onto the race manager. We will take the race out of the practice mode, and then let's see if we can get up to 6 seconds. Because me, when I was driving it, I could get 5.7, so maybe this could get quite close to that, 6 seconds. So we will, that's it, that's all done. Let's pop that on there. So we're set up now to try and achieve 6 seconds. So I'm going to put this race into free practice mode again. Then I will pick up the camera and then click on this icon, and the car will start to move. Let's have a look at the leaderboard. There we go. So we're all ready to click there. I'm going to pick up the camera again. Right, are you ready? So we're going to click the button now, and off we go. So because of that start speed that we set up on the dial, the first lap's always going to be sort of similar times, isn't it? So we got 7.4 that time. But of course our target this time is 6 seconds, and he got 7.2. 7.2 again, so it's got to go much faster to achieve 6 seconds. Oh dear. So when he got to 6.9, and when he got to that stage there, which is quite a slow corner on this circuit, it actually flew off the track. So there, that's a perfect demonstration. That's the absolute limitation of a constant throttle pacer car. When it gets to a difficult corner, because it's going at the same speed all the way around the circuit, it just can't cope with that corner. So I think what we need to do now is move on to the third demonstration, which is the variable throttle pacer car. So let's do demonstration 3, which is setting up the Ford Mondeo as a variable throttle pacer car. And as the name suggests, in a variable throttle pacer car, the car's going to go at variable speed. By that we mean it will slow down when it gets to turns, and it will speed up when it gets to straights. But how exactly does a car know when is a good time to speed up and when is a time to slow down? Well, let me show you that. In SSDC we work in something called the Pace Car Editor, and what we're going to do is basically create a chart of the ideal lap. So let me just click on this window and you'll see what I mean. So down the side here we have throttle position, so that's 0% when you're not touching the trigger at all, and that's 100% when you've got the trigger full down. And along the bottom here is time. So what this trace is telling the car to do is, for the first second it can accelerate slowly. When it gets down to the 1.5 second mark it needs to slow down, but then as it approaches 2 seconds it can speed up a little bit, but then it needs to slow down drastically. And what you hope is that all these times coincide with corners on your track, so as long as it gets to the tight corner at 2 seconds and it slows down at 2 seconds, then all is well. So the question is, how do we get this trace into this window? Because this is just an example one at the moment. And what I'm going to do is show you how I actually record one. So let's delete this data and I'll create you a fresh trace. So now the window is blank. You notice here that we're looking the pace car throttle recording for Ford Mondeo on a Super 3 track. So I should really have pointed out that I'm looking at the correct recording before I deleted it. But there we are. Now how am I going to repopulate this chart with the ideal lap? So the way we do that is we make Andy Race not be a pace driver for a few seconds, so we're going to stop him being a pace driver, and then I'm going to race this car myself and I'm going to drive about 10 laps. It could be 20, it could be 30. I'm going to go for 10 laps, and the software will record the throttle positions for each of those 10 laps. And the way we do that, if we look at the screen again, is there's this red button there that will actually record the lap time. It says record pace car data. So when I click that and I do 10 laps, each of those laps will be recorded. Of course, that's quite a lot of data. So what the system actually does is it only retains information about the 4 fastest laps. So slow laps it just disregards, but fast laps it will retain. And once it's got a picture of those 4 fastest laps, it will then be able to amalgamate those data sets together and work out the best throttle positions over time. It's probably easier for me to actually demonstrate that than it is to show you. So I'm going to go straight in now and set up recording my laps. So to do those 10 example laps, I'm going to put the car on the slot there. I'm going to go into the race manager. We're using Andy Race. He's not a pace driver at the moment, so I'm going to put the race into free practice. So there's the checkered flag. Now, as I said before, we're going to click on this button here that says record pace car data. So as I do the laps now, each one is going to be recorded into the software, but it will only remember the 4 fastest. So the camera's not too bad. You can see the start finish straight. I'm not going to be able to hold it for this example, but I'm going to start racing now and do the 10 laps. So let's go onto the leaderboard. Here we go. Completed. I haven't been keeping my eyes on the times, I've been watching the car going round. So what's that, 6.3, 7 laps. That's 6.3 with 8 laps. 9 laps, that's a 6.1, that's quite fast, wasn't it? So after this lap 10 I'm going to stop. There we are. Right. So now let's have a look at the pace car data. So I'm going to stop the pace car data being recorded by clicking on the stop button there, the black one. Look in the pace car editor window, which currently is blank. I'm now going to refresh the chart and I'm going to see what we captured. And there is the information that we captured. So my fastest laps were lap 2, lap 3, lap 4 and lap 9 is that? Sorry, it's lap 8 I believe. You can see that there's some variances between each of the different laps because the times weren't identical, and obviously my trigger positions weren't identical on every single lap. But what we need to do is click on this normalise button, and that will remove all the troughs and peaks, and it will produce a much smoother trace. So when I click this normalise button now, what you should notice is all those red dots will move about until we get a much smoother curve. So let's try that. And if you watch the screen and then move over, there, did you see them all alter? Still not a very good trace. We've got some really bad peaks, so I think I may have to re-record this one, but we'll see how we go. I'll now put this to the test. If this is the ideal lap for my circuit, what I should be able to do is use this trace to drive this car around automatically, and let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take the race out of free practice. I'm going to tell it that Andy Race is actually a pace driver, but I'm going to tell him to use the variable throttle. I'm now going to pop him on the track. I'm going to put this track back into free practice mode. and as before we're going to click on the Run Pace Cars in free practice, and as soon as I click that button the car will start to move. So I'll pick up the camera and we'll record and see what happens. There's a car, so let's record. Let's click on the Run Pace Cars in free practice and the car will start to move. So we got round one lap, but it slowed down quite a lot at the end there, didn't it? Which I didn't like. Yeah, that's not ideal. But we'll see, we'll give it a chance. So it's got round 3, and I'm going to just put onto the leaderboard, see what times we're getting. So 6 was actually quite fast lap, 6.1. What's that one? 6.2. 6.4. Again, there's a bit of a problem with it slowing down on this straight. But for the purposes of the demonstration, I think that's not too bad, is it? So I'm going to stop while I'm winning. Stop while I'm winning. When the car comes down, I'm going to stop it. There we are. For the purposes of the demonstration, I'm not going to take this much further, but you could see, I mean, I've got a 5.8 lap time there, and that's using the variable throttle. If you think when we was using a constant throttle pacer car, it de-slotted around about 6.8 or 6.9 seconds, didn't it? So that's a whole second faster. I wasn't too pleased with the fact that it kept slowing down on this last bit of the home straight. If we go into the pace car editor, you can actually click on these dots and move them manually. So I could actually refine this manually, or I could, if I wanted to, just clear it and re-record it again. But I'm going to stick with this one for the time being because I've just showed you it working on the circuit. And what I'm going to do next then is create a trace for my red BMW. I'm not going to do that on camera, I'll do that in private. And then for the last part of the video, I'll show you both cars on the track, both using recordings made with the pace car editor, and we'll watch them racing each other. So should we give that a go? So just off camera I've set up another trace for the beastly BMW. So now both cars have got a trace recorded, and what we can do now is race them against each other using their variable throttle pace traces, so the recordings of each car. So let me show you the recordings. So this is, we go on the pace car editor, and at the moment we're looking at the pace car throttle recording for Ford Mondeo. So this is his ideal lap. Finishes on about 6.5 seconds. You can see these distinctive peaks and troughs where it speeds up and slows down. What we can do as well though is have a look at the one I recorded for the BMW, which is this one. There we go. And that's much flatter. So what I tried to do when I did this one was hardly touch the controller at all, so really smooth it out so there was no big variations in speed, and that's worked quite well as well. So that's a trace for the BMW, and that's, if we click here we can see the trace for the Ford Mondeo. So what we can do now is go onto the race manager, and you can see I've added the BMW into this race. I've set it to be a Grand Prix race over 12 laps. So I'm going to put both cars on the track. And this time, rather than click the free practice button, I'm actually going to go into the race. So to do that, we click on this icon here and the race will start. So what I'll do is pick up the camera for you. Hopefully both cars will stay on. It should be a competitive race. No humans involved, just the pace car traces, and we'll see just how exciting it is. So click on the start button on screen and you'll hear the countdown. And now both cars are racing, so the BMW's got quite a lead. Sorry, the Mondeo's got quite a lead. Yeah, it's got a half a lap lead already. BMW following up behind there. That's 2 laps completed. And panning round following the BMW at the moment. Is it able to catch up? So look at the Mondeo in the lead. Oh, see how it slowed down on that home straight there? That's given the BMW a chance to catch up. But it's still a good half lap behind. They're both on 6 laps. You can see the lap times there. So Andy Rice has got a 6.3 and Matt Neal's got a 6.6. There's the BMW going through there. Both on 8 laps. So he set it for 12. Here comes the Mondeo. All the way through really, it's had a good half a lap advantage. Coming through to complete 10. There's Matt Neal in the BMW. He's done his 10. 11 laps, so I think the Mondeo is going to come through and win. Yeah. And there's Matt Neal coming up second. Let's start and try and sum all of that up. So in that pace car pursuit there, the Mondeo won by a clear lap, 3/4 of a lap against the BMW. What I will say is to create this video, to capture the variable throttle traces and to film the race has actually taken a real long time. And the reason is variable throttle pacer cars aren't actually, they don't feel like a science, they feel more like a little bit of magic. So I've had to redo the traces over and over again until I got a really ideal one that would work for the full 12 laps. And that's sort of the frustration with them. But if you can understand the complexity of what the cars are trying to do, you can sort of understand that maybe the software has a little bit of a job keeping up with things. Things that hinder you as well is various little fluctuations. So when I first started setting them up a couple of days ago, there was a little dead spot on my track just over there, and that was really affecting the timings, because certainly this car I had to hold the control down at 100% for a good, I don't know, half of a lap to get over the dead spot on the track. So I had to take my track apart and fix the tab underneath, so I got good connectivity. That helped. I also found that this car, as the guide blade turned, because it's like an old-fashioned vintage car, when it was like an extreme left-hand turn, the guide blade wasn't making contact properly with the contacts underneath, and that was hampering. So all little fluctuations, all little variations in your track and in your cars make that variable throttle data really difficult to set up and really difficult to be 100% reliable. But with perseverance you can make it work, and I'm going to leave it there now, and I'm going to go away and just see if I can refine the traces a little bit more and make the cars even more competitive. So that's probably about all I want to say for this video. So I really do hope that you've enjoyed it. If you have, please signify that by clicking on the like button. These videos are taking an awful long time to put together, and I think the last one, one of the last ones I put out only attracted 92 views. So that's a little bit disheartening. So I'm keeping the faith, I'm keeping going. I hope you like what I'm doing, but please let me know by using the comments field, using the thumbs up field, and also by subscribing to me. So that's it then for another episode of Slot Track Racer. If I don't see you through next week, I'll see you around the circuit. And with that, I'll say goodbye.